What a night for Chiefs Kingdom. You watched your team claw back from a 20-9 deficit and eventually take the Colts in overtime, 23-20. And if you felt that rush of relief, you weren't alone. This was the kind of win that feels like it could keep a season alive. Tonight's game wasn't pretty the whole way. There were stretches where the offense looked out of rhythm and where the Colts' early efficiency put real pressure on Kansas City. But when it mattered most, the Chiefs showed up. Down 11, you could see the urgency shift. The coaches trusted the run. Kareem Hunt got fed and carried the load. 30 carries and a 100-yard night. And that steady pounding helped erase the deficit and set up the late-game heroics. Patrick Mahomes finished with a big yardage number, 350 passing yards. But you also felt that this wasn't one of his cleanest nights. It was far from perfect. Yet he found the critical plays in the fourth quarter that kept drives alive and eventually created the opportunity to win. Special credit to the defense, too, holding Jonathan Taylor to just 54 rushing yards and tightening up when the Colts needed to finish possessions. The unit closed the game with 4 straight 3-and-outs, including one in overtime. And that sequence is the reason you walked out of this one with a win rather than a loss. There's also a blunt truth. The red zone was frustrating, 1 for 6 inside. And you know that's the area the coaches must fix if this team is going to make noise in January. But on balance, the win matters. It revived playoff chances, halted the doubters for at least a week, and it reminded you why you trust this roster and this quarterback when the chips are down. So before we break down the defense, the offensive adjustments, and the things to fix, I need to know from you. Do you think this win saved the Chiefs' season? Type yes or no in the comments and tell me why. And while you do that, do one thing for the channel. Hit subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers, and smash that like button so more fans see this breakdown. Tonight the defense showed up like a unit with something to prove, and if you want to know why the Chiefs climbed back into this game, start there. The adjustments, the tackling, and the timing were the difference. From the jump, you could see a plan to limit Jonathan Taylor and make the Colts one-dimensional, and the plan worked. Taylor finished with 54 rushing yards and 64 total, far below what he and Indy had been doing all season. And that forced Daniel Jones to try to win with his arm, which is not his strength. The Chiefs did a fantastic job of maintaining gap discipline and tackling downhill. When you force a back like Taylor to run sideways or pick up 3-yard gains instead of chunk plays, you change the whole game plan for the opponent. Beyond the run defense, the unit tightened in the second half. They bent early but didn't break, and those 4 straight 3-and-outs to close the game, including the overtime possession, were textbook situational defense. Get off the field, flip the field, and put the offense back in the driver's seat. Chris Jones was the name of the night up front. He made plays on every meaningful snap and reminded you why he's still one of the most disruptive interior defenders in the league. His presence collapsed pockets and altered Colts' play calling on crucial downs. Leo Chenal flew around making tackles in space and impacting the line of scrimmage. And those hustle plays and third down stops are the kind that don't always show up in box score headlines, but win games. Schematically, you saw Spagnuolo's fingerprints, more disciplined run fits, fewer risky gambles, and more trust in fundamentals when the game was on the line. That discipline created multiple 3-and-outs and put real pressure back on the Colts offense late in the game. There were also key individual moments. A well-timed tackle to force a short yardage situation, a third down breakup that stalled a drive, and an overtime stop that sealed the win. And I want you to tell me which play felt like the turning point for you. Drop the timestamp in the comments and explain why that sequence mattered. If you're dissecting personnel, watch how the linebackers and safeties squeezed the run lanes and how the pass rush timed their stunts. That coordination is why Daniel Jones couldn't get comfortable when it mattered. One honest note: pass rush consistency remains a question for this defense. Generating pressure without sending help will be a focus. But tonight, even a somewhat muted pass rush, combined with elite situational defense, was enough. So yes, credit to the scheme, credit to the players who executed, and credit to the coaching staff for dialing the right adjustments at halftime. Before we move on, do the channel a favor. Hit subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers and smash that like button so more Chief fans see this breakdown. Then drop that defensive turning point timestamp below. Tonight's offensive comeback had a clear spine. The run game, and you have to give credit where it's due, because the coaches trusted Kareem Hunt in a way they didn't last week, and it paid off. You saw the plan unfold early in the second half. Feed Hunt, chew the clock, shorten the field, and make the Colts defend everything underneath. Kareem answered with 30 carries and north of 100 yards, and that workload steadied the offense when the passing game was inconsistent. Patrick Mahomes finished with big numbers, about 350 passing yards. But you also felt that this was one of those games where the box score lies a little. Mahomes' stat line looked impressive, but the truth is, he was hit and hurried often, missed throws he normally makes, and didn't have the sort of rhythm you expect from him. Still, he made the plays that mattered late. Key completions on pressure, a couple of improvisational scrambles that kept drives alive, and enough. Clutch throws in the fourth quarter to move the chains and put you in position to tie and then win. The coaches, Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, deserve credit for correcting last week's mistake of abandoning the run too early. They leaned on Hunt and let the offense balance itself around the ground attack. Mahomes even added about 30 yards on the ground, a helpful extra wrinkle that kept the Colts honest. Statistically, the offense dominated, roughly 500 total yards. But the one glaring flaw that almost cost you the game was red zone efficiency. 1 for 6 inside the 20 is unacceptable for a team with your championship aspirations. Those stalled drives turned potential touchdowns into field goals and gave the Colts life. They're the reason you played an extra quarter when you shouldn't have needed to. So what needs fixing? First, red zone play design and personnel usage. Get Kareem into contact closer to the goal line, mix in tight end leans and play action boots that take advantage of Mahomes' ability to extend plays. Second, finish drives with better pocket protection on third down. When the line slips or the quarterback gets rushed, you end up with field goal range results instead of touchdowns. Third, situational adjustments. There were too many conservative play calls in short yardage and goal-to-go sets. This is where you can afford to be aggressive and creative because the margin for error is small. On the positive side, establishing the run this week does more than move the chains. It reduces pressure on the defense, it wears down opposing fronts late, and it gives you a template to repeat even when Isaiah Pacheco returns from injury. That leads to the question I want you to answer right now. Should the Chiefs keep feeding Kareem Hunt even when Pacheco is back? Vote yes or no in the comments and tell me why. Do it like a one-word vote followed by one quick reason. Before you type that, do one more thing for the channel. Hit subscribe to help us reach 6,000 subscribers and smash the like button so other Chiefs fans find this breakdown. If you're a Chiefs fan who felt the season slipping away after that brutal loss to Denver, this is the chapter you've been waiting for. Because tonight's win didn't just keep you afloat. It reshaped the entire trajectory of 2025. Think about where you were at halftime. Down 29, inconsistent offense, frustration boiling, and a fan base already talking mock drafts. But when this team absolutely had to respond, when the pressure was at its highest, Kansas City delivered. And that's the identity you've come to expect in the Patrick Mahomes era. Every great team has a moment when it chooses fight over fear. And tonight was that moment. You avoided a collapse that would have dropped the Chiefs to a 38% chance of making the postseason. Instead, you walk away with a 67% playoff probability, a re-energized locker room, and the clearest sign yet that this team still has the mental toughness to salvage its season. But that doesn't mean the climb gets easier from here. The Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving are a major test. It's a road environment, short week, national spotlight, and a defense that's going to throw speed at you in ways you haven't seen since Week 6. The urgency needs to match tonight's second-half intensity. You can't afford another slow start, and you absolutely cannot put yourself in a 1-for-6 red zone hole against a roster built to punish mistakes. If you want the optimistic view, here it is. The Chiefs finally won a one-score game. They moved from 0-5 to 1-5 in those tight contests, and teams that learn how to close out one-score games often turn the corner late in the season. You also established a repeatable identity. Defense plus ground game plus Mahomes in high-leverage moments. And that combination travels well, even into stadiums like AT&T. On the flip side, I'm not going to sugarcoat what still needs fixing. The inconsistency from Mahomes early in games, the protection breakdowns, the lack of red zone creativity, and the ongoing search for a reliable second or third passing option when the game gets tight. Those issues didn't magically disappear because you won. They simply got overshadowed by a resilient finish. The question is whether this team uses this win as a turning point or just another dramatic weekend escape. That's why I want you to weigh in right now. Do you think this was the moment the 2025 Chiefs saved their season? Comment saved or not yet, and tell me what convinced you. And before you drop that verdict, make sure you're subscribed so we can hit our goal of 6,000 subscribers. And like this video so it gets pushed to more members of Chiefs Kingdom. All right, fan, let's bring this home. When you zoom out and look at everything happening inside Arrowhead right now, there's a clear message being sent to the rest of the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs are sharpening the blade for another deep postseason run, and the signs are impossible to ignore. This team is healthier, deeper, and more strategically focused than they've been at any point earlier in the season. It's not about hype. It's the combination of execution, adjustments, and leadership that makes the Chiefs dangerous when the calendar flips to the most important stretch of the year. And let me be honest with you. This is the exact moment when Kansas City usually breaks the conference mentally. Other teams get worn down. Other teams start showing cracks. But this roster, they're locking in. This coaching staff, they're at their best when it matters most. Patrick Mahomes, he tends to go nuclear right about now, and with the defense stabilizing and the offense making targeted fixes, you're watching the beginning of another classic Kansas City surge. Here's my question for you, and this is your chance to call your shot. What AFC team actually scares you right now? Drop your pick in the comments. Maybe you think Baltimore is the biggest threat. Maybe Miami. Maybe you think Buffalo always plays the Chiefs tough. Or maybe, just maybe, you're like me and believe the biggest threat to the Chiefs is the Chiefs themselves if they don't execute. Before we wrap, do me one favor. If you're enjoying this breakdown and you want more Chiefs coverage just like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and help push us towards 6,000 subscribers. And hit that like button. It helps a ton. The bottom line? The AFC has every reason to be nervous. Kansas City is cleaning up the mistakes, getting healthy in the right spots, and tightening the screws on both sides of the ball. The Chiefs aren't just preparing for a stretch run. They're preparing to remind the entire league that the road to the Super Bowl still runs through Arrowhead. Stay locked with Total Chiefs News. Hail Chiefs!